We just got given some big news about the Interceptor. Well, more big news. We've highlighted a lot of different stuff that was confirmed, but we got even more information confirmed and some changes to the Interceptor today. But most importantly, we got given a date on when we'll be getting more substantial information on the Interceptor, and I'm thinking maybe we'll even see some gameplay. All that and more in today's roundup. My name is Ryan Central, and welcome back to another Anthem video. First, I wanted to go over Ben Irvine. Ben Irvine is the lead producer on Anthem. He was the beautiful voice that was in the Colossus gameplay talking about different elements of the game, whilst the Colossus was just killing everything for about 19 minutes. He's one of the main head honchos on Anthem, that's the main point. However, he doesn't work out of Edmonton, Canada, like the rest of the Bioware Anthem people. And the reason why I want to highlight all of this is that Ben has made the 17-hour trip from Sydney to Edmonton this week. I think it's enough to say that some big meetings are going to come out of the Anthem Council, which would be Matt Darrah, more on him later in his Twitter corner, John Warner, Michael Gamble, and of course Ben, and other people that I may have missed. Some big decisions have already been made this week, and we're going to be going over them now. The first came last night, hence why I've been holding off all of this information at once, because there's been a lot of good news, but none as important as this. There was some talk about melee builds. We decided to make some gear for the Interceptor to allow a melee build, maybe plural. We've gone over a lot of stuff to do with this for the Interceptor, particularly that it can use stealth, it will have daggers as melee weapons that it can use, and it will act like a rogue. So this just sort of highlights the playstyle of the Interceptor a little bit more than we've had previously. The Interceptor is probably the javelin that we've spoken the most about on the channel. There's a lot of videos going over this. I'll make a playlist of everything to know about this class if you really want to play it. But the main point I wanted to say is that we know that it's going to be roguelike in its playstyle. We know that it's going to have stealth, and now we know that it has daggers as melee abilities. And this just further reinforces that idea that this class is going to be a up close and personal, very nimble, get behind the enemy line and smack him in the back of the head kind of thing. So this kind of reinforces the idea. It doesn't give us really that much information other than, oh, we listened to your feedback, we're going to do more of this, which is cool, but we don't really get to know what that information is. I've highlighted some other tweets on the subject on screen to give you a better idea, but the main thing that I wanted to highlight was a response to Your Anthem actually. Your Anthem put their video on the subreddit. Ben Irvine said thank you, let him know the same information as us, and William from Your Anthem asked, when will we find out more information? We were given a date, November the 1st. 2 weeks, basically, from this video going out, we will have more information, which is weird because they've already been updating the website kind of on a whim. They haven't been doing big announcements to reveal that they've changed Get to Know the Interceptor Javelin right. So I think that this is going to be a good time frame and good substantial information on the Interceptor. I'm even leaning towards seeing some gameplay on this character, considering that the more substantial information that Ben Irvine and stuff wanted to give us will be in inverted commas soon. So whilst there's no confirmation that there would be Interceptor gameplay shown on that day, I do find it very interesting that they've given us a specific date that new information is going to come out on. And another thing I really want to highlight was that Drew, who is the main Anthem community manager, also said that more information is to come on the Interceptor when they tweeted out the new article going over the different melee abilities, for example. And again, on Reddit, Ben Irvine says that we'll be seeing gameplay soon. He feels like a bot saying soon, but we will start to share more soon. And this was an answer to new gameplay, which I think again reinforces the idea that November the 1st might be a time that we see some Interceptor gameplay finally. So I do think it's going to be a really substantial piece of information. Maybe even the live streams might start then, who knows. But what I'm saying is you have all of these big lead developers on Anthem meeting up and making some big decisions, and this might be the reason why. Maybe on November the 1st we start to see what the guys are working on right now. But I digress, that gets more into speculation. I kind of want to go over the actual news as it's been happening, and I wanted to go over some pictures that Ben has been tweeting since he's been at the Edmonton offices, as he's given us a sneak peek of some of the stuff behind the scenes. The first is the kitchen. Amazingly, it's much nicer than my kitchen, and I don't have any vending machines, so that's great. But some of the other interesting stuff that I did want to highlight was some of the screenshots shown. The first one is a behind the scenes on the Storm Ultimate and working on the Storm Ultimate's AI. Lots of people covered this when it came out because there is a lot to pick apart. I don't really want to focus on it too much here because this is a long video. I don't want to waste your time. But you can see the sort of effects of the ultimate. You can also see that there's 3 different auras that it can use. Fire, ice, and lightning, I suppose it would be called. And it does give us a good glimpse onto how this is going to work. Still more information needed. I'd like to see some explanation on how it works, but that's just a storm in general. We also got to see a brief glimpse into a new stronghold that Ben was working on. This was tweeted out by Mike Gamble, actually, not Ben Irvine. They blurred the screen a little bit, but you can still see the avatar of a ranger doing some cool stuff, and honestly, it's just kind of cool to see their setups too. Ben Irvine tweeted that Ross, one of the tech artists, is explaining how he helps the art team hit in-game performance targets, but most importantly, it shows us behind the scenes of what Fort Tarsis is going to look like in first person. For those that don't know, everything outside of Fort Tarsis and outside of the story-based zones is all going to be third person. Your camera will be behind your freelancer in a Gears of War style of play. Whereas in Fort Tarsis and in the Strider, you're first person to allow a more atmospheric, personalized experience, I suppose, but also it allows them to not have to make Fort Tarsis too big. They can make it quite cozy, to be fair. And this is the first that we've seen really of it, other than, you know, walking in and doing the missions from the first bit of gameplay. Robbie is tightening up the graphics on level 3. It's actually level 1, but whatever, haters. You can't really see too much from here. He's just doing some design stuff. Michael Gamble tweeted this one. It looks gorgeous, whatever it is, but there's not a lot to break down simply because it is quite hard to see. And finally, feedback time. They're having a meeting and people playing the game, and there's loads of other pictures of people working on the game from 2 different time zones and 2 different continents that I'm just going to show on screen now. There's lots to pick apart, and I don't really want to waste too much time talking about certain aspects in this video, but I do think it's worth, you know, looking at if you're interested. Next, I want to talk about seasonal events, which was briefly brought up. It was asked on Reddit whether there would be any. Chris Smith says, what sort of things would you like to see? Getting a lot of feedback from players on events, Halloween, Christmas, you know, those kind of things that a lot of games nowadays cover in particular events for cosmetic reasons, for different missions. And this goes back to a tweet way back when in June, where Darrah basically answers that question. Brendan Holmes also answers a lot of questions on Reddit, one of which was, will we be able to fly however we would like, for example in the middle of a boss fight? Brendan says that it's a really good way of repositioning during fights, because then Ben Irvan comes in to say that Brennan often flies away when he gets scared. Nice little banter between the two. On Reddit, this clip was shown with Reddit believing that this is the storm ability that was ricocheting between targets. Ben Irvine comes in again to say that this is actually the Ranger's legendary pulse cannon. The regular version only hits one target, but the legendary iteration bounces to multiple targets. So it's not quite a storm ability that people were expecting, but it's still pretty badass, let's be honest. And I think it gives us more reason to play the Ranger, but who knows. Lots of information over the last 2 weeks I wanted to go over there, but now we go on to the illustrious Darrah's Twitter Corner. First and foremost, he confirms that there will be 4 javelins at launch, maybe more in the future. Not really their focus right now, I don't think. The Storm is able to use all sorts of elemental abilities like fire, wind and water, not just thunder-like abilities. There was a lot of questions on level and player progression. The example was, say I was playing for a good bit and done a good amount with a story, and then my friend gets Anthem and we start playing his story and we get him and her caught up to where I am. Will my story progress since we're both at the same point, or just whoever is host? Darrah says you'll both progress, kind of like Destiny. There were some other tweets about this subject, but I think they were deleted because it confused more people than it helped. You will not be able to get the Legion of Dawn cosmetics by playing the game. This is only from pre-order, with the question with, is there any customizable options that you cannot get just by playing the game? Is 13 the max pilot level? Darrah says we aren't discussing it at this time. I would suggest that the relevancy of level cap requires a lot of additional context. For example, the level cap could be level 10, but it could take twice as long as it would for a character if he were going from 0 to 50. It's all relevant, right? All pre-orders, including the Legion of Dawn edition, get access to the Feb 1st demo if those were interested. I just wanted to know if Anthem will have effect cosmetics that you can buy, for example the blue flame helmet from Halo or the Burning Anubis skin from Assassin's Creed Origins. Mark says likely not at launch, hopefully later. And will our settings carry over from the demo to the actual base game? Darrah says probably not. Mark also confirms that there will be day-night cycles, we knew that already. And then went on to talk about how subclasses work in Anthem. We did a full video going over that, so we'll skip this for now. At what level will gear start to acquire perks? And he says, I think uncommon gear and above start to get a few perks. Can you colour the suit, or is it the paint job itself, the colour of the javelins? Mark says you can colour different parts. There was a lot of confusion that Darrah caused talking about an Xbox One Anthem edition. It will be available on Anthem, but there won't be a specifically designed Xbox One X for it. The website articles were changed a lot, and one of the abilities that was removed from the Ranger's page was the muster point. It was a team-based ability for the Ranger that buffed his team. So Darrah was asked, will there be more abilities that provide various team boosts, buffs, healing, protection? Mark says yes. There's also a lot of talk about character boosts. Mark says that they don't really have any plans for it, but how would people feel about it after launch? A lot of discussion, but the main focus was no, unless it was to catch up with certain DLC or endgame content where the level cap may go up. Personally, I like how Destiny do it, so maybe just do it like them. And that goes over everything in this video. It was quite a long one. I tried to make sure that it wasn't as drawn out as possible, but the main big news is that we will be getting big announcements on November the 1st. It's going to be a really important day, I feel. Hopefully we'll see some gameplay of the Interceptor. It seems likely that we're leaning towards that, but there's still a lot to be decided. Thanks for watching, let us know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Take care.